sooner or later, when they're ready, they will take your family.
Do not open this door under any circumstance.
Leave us alone!
This movie is basically Signs, but in the narrative structure of a Paranormal Activity movie. It's not found footage. It doesn't have a lot of found. It has some found footage scenes in it, but it's not a found footage movie, obviously, if you've seen the trailer. But that's what it feels like. It has a very similar plot to Signs. It kind of feels like a bland rip-off to Signs in the structure of a Paranormal Activity movie, with all the elements of those newer horror movies that have been coming out recently. Like the James Wan and the Lee Winnell produced horror films that have been coming out, like Insidious and Sinister. It has elements from those movies. It has the tone of one of those movies. There's a scene at the end that makes no sense, but I'm not going to spoil any of it. This movie, if you've seen Signs and you've basically seen this movie, you basically know what's going to happen in this movie, with a couple like twists here or there, but they're not like, it's not like a big difference. And you know, just because you know going in that like these things are going to happen, certain like things are going to happen, and it's kind of established like pretty early that certain things will be happening to certain characters. And it's just the biggest problem with this movie is the script. It's a very bland script, and the movie itself, it has a good look. It has like a pretty nicely balanced tone and good production value. It's a well-made film, and it was written and directed by Scott Stewart, who did the Day the Earth Stood Still remake, which kind of has the same problem as this movie, and the fact that this movie and that movie, the Day the Earth Stood Still remake isn't a terrible movie. It's not bad. Not by a long shot, but it's not a good movie. It's just very fucking dull and very boring and not terribly engaging, and that is all the same problems that are going on here with Dark Skies, you know? It's just that it's not, it never engages you, and it never feels like it's going anywhere or that it gets going, even though the film's very short. It feels long, though. It feels like a 2-hour movie, even though it's only like an hour and 35 minutes. But it's not fucking engaging, and even though there's things happening throughout the entire thing, and some of it's kind of creepy, most of it is just startling. None of it really gets under your skin. A movie like Insidious, which I really liked Insidious, and maybe some people don't like that. I liked Sinister as well, to a lesser degree. I agree with a lot of people that in the third act that movie kind of falls apart completely. But for the most part, Sinister is a pretty good movie, but Insidious, I think, is a really, really good movie. That movie, actually, the last third of Insidious also kind of falls apart, but in like it doesn't fall apart, it just becomes very schlocky, but it still kind of works. It's weird. I'm really interested with what they do with the sequel to that movie. Also very interested with what they do with the sequel to The Last Exorcism. Because I thought the end of the world happened at the end of that movie, but I guess not. You never know. It's not found footage this time, so it remains to be seen what happened to the documentary crew from the first movie. But I'll be seeing that movie. Last Exorcism is a movie that I didn't think was going to be very good, and that movie was a movie that engaged me and got me. It was because of the central lead character is really interesting and really cool, and there's nothing here that's really interesting and really cool, and that's the kind of thing. It's like none of the characters are all too engaging or all too interesting. You don't really care for their plight. They're in this like really bad financial straits, but you never really feel it. You never really like think it's there. You know, you never really consider it, because the guy he keeps talking about the fact that he has no money, but he updates his security system. He gets all these cameras installed. He goes out one night and he buys all these fucking supplies to board up the house in a scene that's very similar to the end of the fucking, the end of Signs. And it also has that, you know, the younger kid, or one of the kids was sick all the time when they were younger. It has that fucking thing going on. that was happening in Signs. It also has the whole, like, the family needs to bond together to succeed in the end going on that was in Signs. Even though there's this weird moment at the end, which, as I mentioned before, it's just very confusing. It comes out of nowhere. It's like the movie becomes a psychological horror movie for 10 minutes out of nowhere. And it's fucking confusing. And it's not that it's terribly confusing. It's just like, I get what happened. I just thought it was like really like, oh, we're doing this now in this movie. All right. I mean, nothing else is really like hit, you know? And that's the problem, is that like the script, it's not that it's a terrible script, it's just a fucking bland script. It's very cliched. It has all those 90s cliches in it, all those 90s like alien invasion or alien abduction, alien UFO films from the 90s. It has all of those cliches and all of those concepts that were like prevalent and more popular in the 90s and in the 80s with ufology or UFOlogy or whatever the fuck they call it. It's all in this script for some fucking reason, because, and it's just like, was this written in the 90s? Because apparently that movie Splice, which I don't like, was written in the 90s, and it fucking feels like it, because all the signs in that movie is terribly fuzzy, the cloning, just everything that happens in that movie is just fucking stupid, basically, and including the switched sex rape of both parents thing that happens, which should be addressed. That kind of knocked me off my kilter for a second thinking about that. What the hell? Dark Skies. Fuck, I'm gonna have to edit this. Okay, my brain just stopped working thinking about the movie Splice. It's that bad. But yeah, this script feels like it's from the 90s, and it's like, I think if this had either, like, I don't know if like, a lot of people like to say, like, if this movie had another draft, it would have been better. A lot of people like to say that about The Dark Knight Rises. If this movie had another draft, it would have been better. It's like, what the fuck do you mean by that? You know? Like, are you saying that the writer would have known all of the problems and they would have addressed them with this next draft? Like, what if they think, like, they have reached the final draft and this is the story that they mean to tell? With that said, this fucking movie could have used a second draft. This fucking movie, what you should be saying instead of this movie should use another draft, you should be saying this movie could use another writer. If you wanted The Dark Knight Rises to be fixed, then you should have not had David S. Goyer as one of the writers. There you go, guys. Get a new writer. Not another draft, get another writer. If you want to fix Dark Skies, get a new fucking writer. Or a different writer, because Scott Stewart is not a fucking very good writer. He's an okay director. He's a pretty good director. He has at least he has a style. He has a visual style, and he can kind of like, or maybe he doesn't, because actually thinking about it, The Day the Earth Stood Still remake had that, you know, action thriller feel of all those like CGI heavy movies that were coming out, like, and this is only like 6 fucking years ago that this movie came out. Like, that's how fast culture changes nowadays. But it had the feel of all of those movies, of all of those slicked up remakes, you know? And then this fucking movie has the feel of a Paranormal Activity movie. So maybe the Scott Stewart guy is a complete hack and doesn't have any skills as a writer or a fucking director. Who knows? I haven't seen all of his films. I don't even know what all his films are. But if you've seen Signs, you've seen this movie. If you've seen Paranormal Activity, you know how this movie feels. If you've seen Insidious or Sinister, or if you watched the fucking X-Files, then you know basically what happens in this movie or what this movie is going to be like. Oh, J.K. Simmons is in it for no real fucking reason, to be the cameo of Art Bell, I guess. That was who his character was. His character was an Art Bell character who didn't fucking get a radio show, I guess. It was weird. Art Bell mixed with Hunter S. Thompson, actually. And another thing, this is why I thought the movie kind of felt like it was written in the 90s, is they go to, like, Carrie Russell goes on some fucking website. She goes on what should be Google to search something, and it's just search. That's all it says, is just search, and then, like, the search bar. So it's, what is that, like, search.com? Could you try that? Like, search the website. Like, I want to see, is that what the internship is going to be about? Is search the website, not actually Google? And that movie looks fucking terrible, The Internship. Oh my god, why does Vince Vaughn keep getting work? But This Psycho remake. Come on, guys. But there was that. And there was also an instance where Kerry Russell, instead of like linking it or like saving the bookmarks on her phone or on her like some tablet or something, she printed out all of like these website pages, all these pages from different websites. She printed it out. And it's like, do you have any idea how much printer paper that it would have used? That's fucking like ridiculous. I almost said another word that I shouldn't have said. That's fucking retarded. Who cares? But why did she do that? Like that comes from a script from the 90s, you know? This fucking guy who's only cutting out newspaper clippings comes from the 90s. This fucking family at the end who are they're doing the same thing. They're putting up newspaper clippings at the end. That happens in 90s scripts, not nowadays. Like, what the fuck is this? You know? So, not a very good movie. Not engaging. I did not like the look of the aliens at all. They looked stupid. That's kind of the only way to describe them. They looked like just like black, skinny, like they looked like shadow people. And like originally I thought this was a shadow people movie when I saw the fucking trailer the first time, but it's not. It's an alien movie. It's a very stock, bland Scott Stewart alien abduction invasion. I don't know what the fuck. Because, you know, there were cool parts about the J.K. Simmons part as him as not Art Bell. There were interesting parts to that. He was talking about how, like, the invasion has already happened and, they're, you know, they're here to study us. And it's just like, okay, I guess. Like, that's kind of, like, it was just, like, the actors in this are good, but it's kind of a thankless role all around for all of them. But Kerry Russell is kind of whatever in the movie. I think the last good movie she was in, or not good movie I should say, but the last time she was good in a movie was like the Saw movies. That's like the last time she cared, or it felt like she was caring. This movie, it didn't really feel like she was giving a shit, or it felt like maybe it was just a bad character. Like, it's all poorly drawn characters, so it could have been just the script's fault, or it could have been Kerry Russell's fault. I don't know. But Josh Hamilton is the guy's name as the husband. He was okay. The kids were pretty good. I thought the kids actually were like the best part of the movie. It was not a good movie. Not very good, but not bad. Just it will get lost in the ether. That's kind of what the film is. It's completely just. It will vanish away, and no one will remember it, and no one will regard it. And that's whatever, that's fine. It's Scott Stewart, who gives a fuck. You know? He did a Day the Earth Stood Still remake where he killed Josh Hamm. So fuck him.
Every one of you listening to my voice, tell the world. Tell this to everybody wherever they are. Watch the skies, everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.